Chico and the Man will not be presented this evening, and the Rockford Files will be seen 1 hour later than normal, so that we may bring you the following special program.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here, deviating from our usual subjects to talk to an internet pioneer who I'm always happy to have on the show. This guy has been part of the internet for, goddamn, as long as there's been an internet, it seems. The great Mr. Skin of the Mr. Skin website. Great to see you, Skin. How you been?
Hey John. Yeah, 26 years this year.
That's insane. That is insane.
I know, my website started before Facebook, before Twitter, before YouTube. That was part of the reason early on we took off, is because if you wanted to know if an actress was naked, you didn't really think to go to Google, and then you'd say, "Oh, go to that guy that's always on all those radio shows," and it was a great way to get out of the blocks quickly, if you know what I mean.
You know, honestly, Skin, the media world has changed so much since you hit the atmosphere 26 years ago. Yeah, and honestly, I think back, because as many young men, we would probably stumble on your site, and back in the old days, the images were a lot smaller, and you had screen caps, and I mean, it really has evolved. Now the studios are. I think probably happy with that you give them the coverage. I don't know if they ever had a problem in the old days. Tell me the difference.
Yeah. Well, in the old days, there were a lot more radio shows, period, to go on. So that's number one. Yeah, listen, here's the deal. If you have an obscure movie that's out that has a great nude scene and you have an advertising budget, it's probably not that much. And if there's someone that could go on a ton of radio shows and promote the fact that there's this great nude scene in a movie, that's a great thing for them. And
sure.
There's really nothing at all. Do you hear that clicking at all?
A little bit. It's not me. I don't know.
No, it's mine. It's
okay.
My guys are trying to reach out to me on Slack. I was wondering if you could pick it up.
Oh, that's fine.
It's a I've always operated under the thing is like, listen, I'm talking about mostly obscure movies, and talking about the nudity in the movies. I never say if they're good or bad movies. It really is irrelevant for what I do. And
sure,
it's just free publicity for someone that has a movie or television show. And I do hear it a lot from the radio people when I go on their shows, is they'll say, I never heard of that show, but when you showed me the nudity or talked about the nudity, it made me want to watch. And
sure.
Yeah. So
no, I understand, man. No, you've been a staple of morning zoos on the radio for many years, and that's great. But I always appreciate when we talk, because beyond the obvious of the beautiful women, first of all, this year's top 10 nude scenes is really interesting, because I almost feel like we're almost coming out of the I think the concerns are still there, but you know what I'm saying. The mores from where we were when we were kids in the 80s and in the 90s, a lot looser. Then things got kind of a little more restrained, but it seems like things are loosening up again. What is your observation?
It's interesting, because movies and theaters are definitely not like they were in the 80s and 90s as far as nudity goes. There's no question about that. You think of Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct. Can you imagine someone doing that in a mainstream film today? I don't see that. But the bigger difference now is all the different platforms and television is when I launched MrSkin.com in 1999, The Sopranos was just starting. Sex and the City had been on a few years. There were some TV shows, but not a handful, really.
Yeah, a handful.
Dream On. Dream On is a great example, where you could get nude scenes from, but most of my stuff was from movies.
Sure.
Now, there's way more from television with all the different platforms. Just Taylor Sheridan's shows alone, Yellowstone and all those other shows are, it's like, I didn't have access to that when I started this. So on one hand, it's different, but on the other hand, it's better, because there's just so many places to find nude scenes. And the television, especially over the last 10 years, and, Sopranos was a big part of it, but heading into like Game of Thrones and stuff, just the quality, it's like you're watching a movie every time you watch an episode of a television show. They're so well done. And they're for the nudity too, is like mainstream actresses, famous actresses. Look, Demi Moore's in a Taylor Sheridan show now. Like, in the old days, not old days, but early, and even in the 90s, it wasn't common for movie people to be in television. And now it's like no big deal. In fact, they're the same. They're equal.
100%. When Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren did that Yellowstone prequel, I'm like, all right, and I even remember a couple of years ago, and maybe you and I talked about it in an older show, but I remember Jodie Foster complaining, it seems like big movies aren't the thing anymore. And it was still a couple of years before she finally did True Detective. And it's like, hey, man, if you're an actor or a writer or a director, you've got a longer canvas, yes, having a 10-part or a 6-part or an 8-part show versus a 2-hour movie, and more in-depth characterization, yes, and more opportunities to really go in different places. And again, shockingly, the nudity that seems to have slightly disappeared from films is more than prevalent now in streaming and cable and the like.
Yeah, well, I also think part of that too is the DC, in your world, the DC comic movies and all that. It's just, there's more of those like big kind of movies, more geared to the youth audience than adult audience.
Yeah,
and that's also taken a little it's taken a little shine off of the nude scene thing, but that's fine. But TV's more than made up for it, so we're good.
Yeah. By the way, everyone can see the movie poster for Skin, your fantastic documentary that we have discussed before. Where is it currently streaming, where people can watch Skin? It's a fantastic movie, everybody.
Well, I recommend people could just go to Tubi, and it's funny because when this came out in, God, what year did it come out? 2018. No, 2000. Yeah, I can't remember when it came out.
Pre-COVID, definitely.
Yeah, it was pre-COVID. So we sold it to Hulu,
mm-hmm,
and it was on Hulu for 2 years. I'll be honest, we undersold it because we found out that it was super popular on Hulu, and we had no idea.
Sure,
so we could have got a lot more money, but when our 2-year contract with Hulu ended, and then we put it out there where you could download it at wherever, Tubi, Amazon, all the different streaming services. This Tubi is blowing me away. Like, we're getting checks quarterly because it's a free service. If you don't mind watching a few commercials, it's all free, and they get so much traffic. And when you put a movie, our documentary is about the history of nudity in film. It's like, it's the old thing when you're used to being a Blockbuster. What were the movies you'd rent? The ones, sure, with the sexy box cover. Well, right behind me is a pretty sexy box cover, and they don't do porn, so this is the closest you could get to porn. And next thing you know, so many people on Tubi want to see our documentary, and it's been great. So, to be honest, we've made more money in like a quarter on Tubi than I did in 2 years on Hulu, which is crazy,
I'm not surprised, man. And I'm a big proponent of Tubi and Pluto and the free streamers with commercials. So, we grew up with commercials, so it's not a big deal for us. Yeah. But also, their libraries are great. And along with Skin on Tubi, there's a lot of those 80s and 90s Cinemax and Showtime movies that we grew up with and that were on USA on Up All Night, and everything, and they're uncut. I noticed
that because when I search our movie to see like how it's doing and stuff, like
I'll
see all these weird movies, not weird, but movies that you and I probably enjoyed that you just wouldn't think of nowadays. Like if you're at Netflix or any place that you would try to download a movie, you wouldn't think of these movies, but at Tubi, they're like, this is awesome, and it's great. Yeah. It's great for us. So
100%, man. A good friend of ours, the great Ken Chirillo, watching us. Good to see you. Sleepy, good to see you, man. Yeah. I got to read his, and man, I got to get him on the show. Flipside, his book about the great record store chain here in Chicago. Ken just released a book about that, and it's a great look at.
Great guy.
Wonderful guy. Yeah, we worked together. Yeah, we worked together at the score for many years. So yeah. Terrific guy. So that's great. No, but this year's your list, and we can start talking about that. I find it really interesting because all of a sudden, and maybe these women in particular were always not afraid of being nude in front of the cameras and stuff. But what a list! And a lot of people like Kate Winslet has some nudity in this year's list.
Yes. Yeah, she actually came in. So let me just start with, this is my 26th annual top 10 celebrity nude list, which is available for free at mrskin.com if anyone wants to check it out. And what is, I don't want to make it seem like my job's so hard, but what's difficult about this is, like I said earlier, there's so much nudity in film and television now that to narrow it down to just 10 is really tough. And there's great nudity that missed the cut, like Ali Larter did a great nude scene on that new Landman series.
Yes, I was going to ask about Ali Larter. Isn't that interesting that she's back and naked?
She is the same actress, if you remember, in Varsity Blues, that was in that whipped cream bikini. So it was kind of cool to see her now in her 40s doing a nude scene and looking great. Again, yes, could that have made it? Yes, but then I would have had to kick someone out of this list, so it's a little difficult. Plus, but there's a lot of those that just missed the cut. But finally, at the end, you got to say, okay, here's the 10. We put it at the front page of our website, and I think for me, the level of celebrity is important, or the level of celebrity or popularity of the show you're on has to, because when I do my Anatomy Awards in the spring,
yes,
that's when I could really curate obscure, weird, crazy stuff that happens all over the world.
Okay,
nudity, but this is really a celebrity top 10 list, so that it's people you would actually know. Believe me, there's incredible nudity from in a Russian soap opera, but I can't. That doesn't. It's not a celebrity top 10 nude scene.
But stuff. No, I get it. But every now and then you will, do a clip like that, and it's well, I've never heard of this.
Website, but like I said, I can curate that around Oscar time when I do my Anatomy Awards, and we have some weird stuff that happen. Man, it's going to be crazy. I can't wait. But this is just top 10 celebrity nude scenes that are people you would actually know, or shows you would know,
But along with Kate Winslet and Ali Larter, here are all these other women that we've known for decades coming back, man. And I'll go right to number one, because I do find this movie and the subject of the movie incredibly smart and fascinating, and that's the great Demi Moore. And there's a great bikini shot of Demi Moore for the video people. But the substance, wow! I mean, amazing idea. And fantastic that they got her to, and I can't think of anybody better, to be that kind of role. That's tell people about the substance and why.
Well, the substance, it's well, first let me say that Demi Moore, who you just showed an incredible bikini shot of, is 61 years old, or 62 now, I think, and she broke a 27-year nudity drought to do this movie and get very naked. And anyway, it's about being a celebrity and getting older, and it's really a body horror movie. And without giving too much away, it's about how hard it is for women as they age. But it's like, you got to see it to believe it. And I do want to tell you this is our number one nude scene of the year. And if you told me when I launched in '99 that one day a 61-year-old would have the number one nude scene of the year, I'd say you're absolutely crazy. But if you just saw her body, that is not a 61-year-old body, right? But she,
Oops, no, that's Emma.
Sorry. There you go.
There we go. There's Demi.
That old expression, 60's the new 40. You see it right there. But here's another reason this is number one. Obviously, she's an A-list actress, but people ask me a lot, or through my career, I've been asked the question, what's the number one most important factor of a great nude scene? And I always say, well, first of all, is it like the level of celebrity? Is it how long the scene is? Is it the body parts that an actress shows? And all those are really important, but it's funny. The number one most important thing after I've done this all these years that I've realized is it's the lighting. I know that sounds silly, but if you had A-list actress, full frontal nudity for 5 minutes, but it's dark and you can't see anything, you know what? Lighting. Right. And Demi Moore in The Substance is probably one of the most well-lit nude scenes ever. It's unbelievable. So that's another reason it was number one. The scene goes on for quite some time. She's very nude, and the lighting's fantastic. So.
Did you get a chance at all to interview her? I mean, I've seen her on the circuit doing a lot of interviews, obviously. And this is, hey, great for her, man. Great comeback role. Perfect, again, casting. And I just give her a ton of credit for maintaining her looks. And yeah, man, I think in this body image world that I think people are still pretty cool about and stuff, this is a great extreme horror story that takes it to a crazy level. But it's like, look around, man. I mean, I have a couple different friends who've written science fiction stories that are being developed for TV shows. And one is a venereal disease that when you take this drug, it makes you incredibly supermodel hot, but eventually it kills you. And who's willing to be hot for a short period of time, knowing that they're still going to die? Exactly, man. Yeah. No, and that is what's interesting. I mean, we continue to unfortunately live in interesting times, and also again, I'm really glad to see people like Ali Larter and also Demi Moore. Here I showed Emma Stone. Emma Stone's on your list. She's number 2. And not as old as some of these other women, but like Sofia Vergara coming back. And,
it's funny. Some people were a little upset that her nude scene in Sofia Vergara's nude scene in Griselda was kind of brief, but you got to understand, like, there's certain actresses that have yet to do a nude scene that guys have been, clamoring for, no pun intended, forever. And she did that Netflix series Griselda about this Colombian drug lord in the 70s. And John, just so you know, the actual Griselda was not the most attractive woman. So they had to put prosthetics and makeup on Sofia Vergara. But in the 4th episode, she had a sex scene. And for the first time in her movie or television career, she did a nude scene. And I had to get it in my top 10 list. So listen, if it was better lighting and she was facing directly into the camera, it would have been the number one nude scene of the year, but it wasn't. So she came in at number 8 on our list for 2024.
Also, Zoe Saldana looking amazing, and on the top 10 list.
That Special Ops Linus, another Taylor Sheridan show, Yellowstone creator. What's interesting about her, and you'd know this, she's not like Kate Winslet level famous, but she's been in like the highest grossing movies of all time, Avatar 1 and 2 and Avengers Endgame. I mean, it's like, those are monster movies. And luckily she's not in that blue paint. So she's her nude scene in season 2, episode 2 of Linus is just spectacular. I think she's gorgeous. So.
Oh my God, no, she's stunning, and I mean, she came on my radar for another comic book movie, and that's The Losers. And she's in the Chris Evans is in that as well, and it's kind of a special ops movie. You wouldn't unless you knew, you wouldn't think it was a comic book movie, but it actually is. And of course, she's Uhura in the Star Trek movies, the more recent ones. Yeah, she's a big nerd icon.
Right. Definitely. No, I know what you're saying. I think she's super famous in in one world,
Yeah.
she's not mainstream famous like a Kate Winslet or someone like that. But I agree, she's fantastic.
Man, I'm surprised. Although we really only got to see her again recently because they started up the new season of Yellowstone, and now I'm blanking on Kelly's last name. The beautiful, woman in Yellowstone. The
Kelly Riley.
Kelly Riley, of course.
Oh
yes.
yeah. She made my list the first year of Yellowstone, and what's funny? She's British.
Yes.
It's the way these British actors and actresses hide their English accent. I think is so cool because when they get interviewed and they're like, who is that person? It's like, and they do such a great job. But she's really hot. I'm a big fan of hers.
Yeah. Well, and it's just as we reach our senior years and stuff, it is nice to see that there's a group of listen, every age there are beautiful women, but it's really nice to see that they are celebrating how beautiful they are and willing to kind of show us the goods. Frankly, I mean, it's pretty great.
Yes, and I think one of the takeaways from the list this year is the number of actresses over 40. I remember it used to be like when Marissa Tomei did Before the Devil Knows You're Dead and The Wrestler.
Yep.
And she was over 40 years old, and it was so like jaw-dropping that you could be over 40 and look that good. and that was 15 years ago. Now It's like Demi Moore and gosh, Kate Winslet is 49 years old, and Lee, I was like, I was so surprised how great she looked. I mean, she was nude in the Titanic in the 90s, and here we are in 2024. So, it was just women or actresses now. It's just pretty cool to see that you can look that great at that age. It's really an amazing thing.
Tell me about Leela George. I don't know her very well.
There's a show called Disclaimer on Apple TV, and it's going to blow your mind. Now, first of all, this Leela George is gorgeous. She's 32 years old, but her father, this will blow your mind. You remember Full Metal Jacket, the movie?
Of course.
Private Pile, Vincent D'Onofrio. That's her father. Her father is Vincent D'Onofrio, the
nerds are excited because he's of course the Kingpin in the Marvel universe, and he's going to be early next year. He's going to be back as the Kingpin in the next Daredevil series.
Who knew? Nerd medicine, but her mom is Greta Scacchi, who for what I do for a living, remember Presumed Innocent with Harrison Ford? She was the woman that got killed at the beginning of the movie, and you know how beautiful she is. So you can see. And
the Tom Berenger movie that she was in back in the 80s or 90s with Bob Hoskins.
Not Coca-Cola Kid you're talking about.
No, but that's another great young.
I'm talking about like the one she was nude in. It's like
no, she's nude in the one. I think she's nude in the one I'm thinking of. It's Bob Hoskins and Tom Berenger, and her husband dies, and she starts something with Tom Berenger, who has amnesia and doesn't remember all the details, but she convinces him they were lovers, etc. Blah blah blah. I can't remember the name of it, but I've been a Greta Scacchi fan. Again, man, no, come on, Skin. Before your website and everything, we were combing the VHSs on our own looking for.
I'm trying to think the plot you're talking about. I'm trying to think if it's is it Heat and Dust like that long ago? I'm trying to think like a Tom Berenger movie.
This was this was in like when he was still a leading man.
Oh,
so this is before his
Shattered.
I think it was Shattered. I think it was Shattered. Yeah.
Okay, I know what
you're talking about. All right, there you go. Yeah, JD.
Yeah, she has a brief nude scene in that, but not anywhere near as good as Coca-Cola Kid and
True.
Presumed Innocent. I just
love
the nudity.
Eric Roberts in Coca-Cola Kid with her?
Yes, good call on the Eric Roberts, yeah.
Absolutely. Swain,
she's from Italy too. She's like an Italian actress.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Swain says this discussion is scandalous, and I appreciate it. Yeah, man. Well, again, I beyond the obvious of these beautiful women, I am fascinated by the trends in Hollywood. You know, Jennifer Lawrence tried that movie, and I can't even remember the name of it now.
Well, there was Jennifer Lawrence, of course. Red Sparrow was
well,
awesome.
Of course.
That's the one that everyone first
Sure.
was like, "Holy crap! I can't believe she did this nudity." But then that No Hard Feelings, where they're out on the
you got it. No Hard Feelings. Yeah, where they're on the beach. Well, but you know, I want to know what you think. And again, because you're observing a lot of these movies, where is the raunchy comedy today? I mean, I think that was their attempt to make one, and it's like, okay, you know,
like, yeah, it's like there was that era from 1980 to 85, which was the golden age of teen sex comedies, where you really had tons of raunchy comedies like Porky's and Fast Times, and I could go on and on. My Tutor, Last American Virgin. I mean, Boom Boom. Those were like legendary movies. All
featured in the Skin documentary. But continue.
You're right, and then all of a sudden, John Hughes, which I did like those movies. But
sure.
It was a different type of movie where raunchy wouldn't be the word to use. And then they became super popular, and it kind of edged out the Porky-ish type movies. But then American Pie in 1999 had huge success, right?
Right.
And with Shannon Elizabeth's nude scene and all that. And that kind of got back in. But you're right. It's not the same. And there's a lot of reasons. I mean, come on. I don't think after the Me Too movement, you're going to have a ton of those kind of movies like you did in the 80s, which is fine. But that No Hard Feelings is like kind of a throwback to, you know, the old days of pretty graphic nudity in really cool scenes. You know,
they wanted it both ways in some ways, because they are, you know, I mean, the whole point of the movie, if people haven't seen No Hard Feelings, I think it's still on Netflix. She's like 30 and she's hired by Matthew Broderick, and I forget who plays his wife,
right, to date the nerdy son, right?
Yeah, the nerdy son is about to go into college, and the kid hasn't lost his virginity. We want you to do it, basically.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, it kind of is trying to do today's attitudes towards sex at the same time as being a little raunchy. And it's like, again, I respect the effort, but I don't, you know. Hey, how did and I know in addition to the Nude Women, you do have a male nudity companion site to Mr. Skin.
Yeah, MrMan.com.
Mr. Man.
Yeah, we launched it 10 years ago, actually, believe it or not. And
sure.
You know, it's funny because I remember when I launched, I was thinking, okay, you know, it'll be like 50% gay men and like 50% women that'll come to the site. And
sure, you would think.
In about 2 weeks, we realized it would be like 99.9% gay men and give or take 1%. You know,
that's good. Hey, man,
which is fine.
Well, I'm interested. Skin, a couple of years ago, they came out with that movie Bros, which absolutely was a hard R gay sex comedy.
Yeah,
and I
which
wondered,
is all over MrMan.com, right?
I would, of course, and certainly I would imagine the hottest scenes in the Magic Mike movies, and God bless him, man. That's awesome. No, that's terrific. But yeah, I mean, in general, in the mainstream, and maybe because it was such an extreme gay sex comedy and stuff, it didn't do what I think even the producers were hoping it would do. And I just found that kind of interesting. I mean, I'm glad.
You mean get women to want to see it, or what?
Well, just I think a mainstream audience in general, beyond just women and everything, but really, like, I kept seeing complaints from the producer and the director, like, well, it's certainly disappointing to see. And it's like, well, you know, and again, everybody, this is my own editorial. It's like, hey, I think it's fantastic that movie's out there, but I still haven't seen it. I was, and I say this without any malice, I was just indifferent in terms of, do I want to see this movie? It's like, no, not really. And again, with no hate or anything like that, or there shouldn't be, but it's like, and again, it's like, on the one hand, I respect, like, by all means, make your movie. And I'm really glad that there were distributors in a studio and everybody willing to make this movie. And I'm glad there's an audience for it, but I don't know what the size of that audience is. And to be expecting a mainstream rush of a response, I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
you're kind of asking too much.
And plus, it's also, I've always felt like to pay money, meaning to go pay money to see a movie with nudity at a theater, or to pay money at a website, men are much more willing to do it than women. And I don't think there's like, for the movie you're talking about, and again, nothing against it, but do you and I want to go see a movie about with a lot of male nudity in it? What's in it for us? I mean, even if it's a good movie, it's like I have no problem with male nudity. That's not the issue. It's like, I'd rather watch, No Hard Feelings, instead. So yeah.
No, I respect that. Well, and also, isn't it interesting? Because I've noticed in the last couple of years, even beyond the streamers, even like HBO, there's a lot more male crank being exposed than there was since it Wild Things where you saw what's his face, or I'm conflating movies.
Not Wild Thing.
Kevin Bacon's.
Kevin. Yeah, I thought you meant in the three-way scene. Yeah, no, Kevin. You do see Bacon bits getting out. That was kind of shocking back in '98 when that movie.
Yeah, came out. Yeah.
But nowadays, it's like I'm, no pun intended, blown away by all the male nudity.
Indeed.
In these, and it's all television shows too. It's
yes.
Like they're just like, hey man, now those where it's just a male being nude, definitely it makes it attractive to women to watch the show, no question about it. So we get so much content for Mr. Man now because of all the male nudity. It's crazy.
That's funny. Another score vet watching us, Freddie Hubner, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, Fred! All right.
Can't think of a better way to spend a Tuesday afternoon. Love you guys. We love you, Fred. Fred, I had no idea. Fred's dad was a TV producer, and we're all excited in Chicago because Dick Allen finally got in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, as a White Sox fan, I don't have a lot of things to be excited about. So Dick Allen getting into the Hall of Fame was pretty cool.
Long time coming, man. And I guess Fred's dad used to produce, and I vaguely remember this on one of the local UHF channels, Channel 44, the Dick Allen Show.
Wow, like, I remember watching that as a kid. Wow.
Freddie's dad was the producer of it. That's pretty wild,
awesome.
Man.
That's awesome.
Let's see here. I want to go back to any other photos that I posted. Well, here actually, I'll just go to the list itself. And I'm not going to show it, unfortunately, because if you go to Mr. Skin, where even before you got the video, you got the screen caps, everybody, and you're going to be very, very happy. And again, go to MrSkin.com and you can see the top 10 list. But I had a couple questions of like Alona Tal from Cross.
Yeah,
Alana, pardon me.
Yeah.
So now, was she in? Was she a former like Veronica Mars actress or something?
Very good. She played. Was it Meg Manning? Was that her name on the show? But she's Israeli born, and this show Cross with it's based on the James Patterson novels. With Aldous Hodge stars.
Yes,
and it's on Amazon Prime, and it just in the 6th episode she had this topless scene. I was like, holy crap, that has to make the top 10 nude scene of the year. She's really beautiful.
Yeah, and lovely woman.
That show's doing really well. I hope they renew it for another season because I think they will, but whatever.
No, I think that's a cool show, and it was great to see her. It reminded me a bit of one of our favorites, Alexandria Daddario, kind of shedding her good girl image from a lot of her early movies.
Yeah. I'll never forget when in 2014, when she did that first season of True Detective, it was 10 years ago. And it was like in January when the show aired on HBO, and she does that nude scene with Woody Harrelson. And I turned to my wife, I go, that's going to be the #1 nude scene of the year. And it was January. So, and it was, and it's still a legendary nude scene. And by the way, she couldn't be cooler. She's posted many times. Well, I shouldn't say many times, but a few times on Twitter and different places where she was like, she was honored that she won like at MrSkin.com. She's been really cool.
And it's really, I do appreciate that she's so cool about it. And I mean,
all we're saying is she did amazing nude scenes. She's the
right. We just think she's lovely.
Nude scene. I mean, we didn't we didn't hide in bushes and take a picture of her or steal her cell phone pictures. All we're saying is, listen, she's in this great show. She did this amazing nude scene. It's the best nude scene of the year. I mean, what's to be mad about?
I'm with you. And Sydney Sweeney, it seems, is a good sport.
She's the new Alexandra Daddario, right?
For real. Yeah, man. And it is crazy. You were saying before about I forget Sofia Vergara's the real person that she plays. Well, I know that Sydney Sweeney is apparently making a Christy Martin movie, the boxer, the female boxer. And listen, I interviewed.
I can't even get my head around that.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Listen, I interviewed Christy, and Christy's a lovely woman and a real great athlete, and I have nothing but respect for her. Sydney Sweeney looks nothing. I mean, Sydney Sweeney is really like, obviously nudity material, and God bless Christy Martin. It's like, I respect her as an athlete. I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Okay.
but who I would love to see her play, Sydney Sweeney. And I say this because, again, this is what I love, Jim. This is our connection, that we'll pull names from, like, the 50s, 60s, and 70s and stuff.
It's my
yeah, man. Spot. Well, yeah, man. That's what we grew up on. Those were our movies when we were kids. I would love to see Sydney Sweeney make a Yvette Vickers biography film.
Oh my God, that's a little obscure, but yeah. No,
I mean, I think she's got that same kind of ingenue quality that Yvette Vickers, everybody. She's not the 50-foot woman in Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. She is the hot girl mistress of the husband that is cheating on the 50-foot woman. I don't know how you get away with that.
Yeah, I was going to say that I don't know if there's a lot of demand for the Yvette Vickers remake of her life, but listen, I'm all for it. So
well, and she made like a lot of bad B movies, and she's a background actor in a lot of the beach movies that Frankie and Annette made. I don't know, man. I guess because I think of that Gretchen Mol, Betty Page movie. But Betty's more iconic.
Didn't that Yvette Vickers? She lived she was alive within the last 20 years, right?
Yes. Yeah. And then sadly was found passed away in her home and everything. But no, she was still making the horror film circuit, as far as showing up in autographs and photos and things like that. Like another great woman I'm sure is on Mr. Skin, Barbara Crampton.
Oh my God, yeah, the Reanimator, the greatest nude with a head in the history of movies. So yeah, I'm a big Barbara Crampton fan.
Sure, absolutely, man. No, that's hilarious. Are you finding? Is someone on the Mr. Skin staff still going through old foreign movies and going, hey, I found Nancy Kovac from an Italian film in 1968.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that we've already, in the 26 years we've been doing that, a lot of that we've already found somehow, some way. Some of these movies get remade. Some of them get the Blu-ray treatment. Or some will just find stuff online and then we have to add it to the website. But we're always looking. It's not just adding new stuff. I mean, if they release a movie Phoebe Cates did a movie in the early 80s called Paradise with Willie Ames that they just released on Blu-ray this year. It's I'm thinking to myself, there's no critic, nobody liked this movie. It was a knockoff of Blue Lagoon.
Yeah.
What would the reason be they released it on Blu-ray? Maybe the fact that Phoebe Cates did her best nudity in this movie, even better than Fast Times at Ridgemont High, though not as iconic and great a nude scene as Fast Times. It was just she's completely nude in a bunch of scenes in that movie. But when that happens, we'll add the newer quality pictures to the website. But we're always looking for that kind of stuff,
My good friend Tom Nagovin produced the new cut of Caligula, the infamous Malcolm.
Yeah, I was going to say that was the other one they released on Blu-ray this year. And gosh, there's some. I got to talk to him because there's some Helen Mirren angles that are whoa. It was one of those things where they were filming it and didn't just think videotape will never be here. It was it's crazy the things you could see in this new Blu-ray version. Whoa, it's pretty nuts,
Jim, if you need to if you don't know how to get a hold of him, I can put you in touch with him. He's a good friend of mine.
All right, well, we might have to talk because we were
absolutely
we were talking about this at our among our people that work at on the website. It was
yeah,
look at this Helen Mirren. This wasn't available ever before this came out. It's I don't think she realizes that the camera was in that spot when she was performing that thing. So, it's pretty crazy.
I just love the whole story behind the movie. And if people haven't watched or listened to my Word Balloon episode with Tom and my dear friend Gabe Hardman, where we really went through the whole movie, the intent initially from the filmmaker, maybe not Guccione himself, Bob, the executive producer, and Penthouse Magazine publisher, and everything, but let's make a classy but porn movie, and he's like, not enough sex. So he hired a second director to come in at night and cut in all these like porn scenes. And then Bob had final cut. The filmmaker did not have final cut. So that was the movie we got. And again, Skin and I are around the same age. I'm sure Skin and I saw the same penthouses that I never saw the movie, but there were constantly articles and ads for it in Penthouse Magazine. So I was certainly aware of it. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy as hell for both McDowell and Helen Mirren, because beyond the other angles of Helen's scenes, like she's in the original cut, she's only in it for like 9 minutes. And they really went back to the raw footage and assembled a completely different cut. I mean, I haven't watched the original cut to compare it, but there is a story there. And God, Gore Vidal wrote the script.
Yeah, there's so much. They should do a movie on the making of that movie. We interviewed Malcolm McDowell in Skin about, and we showed clips from that, and he had some cool stories about it too. So it's like an iconic. It's just one of the, for what I do for a living in the history of nudity in the movies. It's definitely, it's one of the. I don't want to say it's the Citizen Kane, but it's one of them. It
is one of them. Well, just like and again, from a purely puerile point of view, Showgirls. I mean, and also,
listen. I always joke around that I consider, for what I do for a living, Showgirls the greatest movie ever made. I mean, NC-17. You get Elizabeth Berkley coming out of Saved by the Bell. Not only did she do incredibly graphic nudity, and there's different aspect ratio of that if you have, which we do at Mr. Skin, that you couldn't see in the theater, that would absolutely blow your mind, especially when she's trying to kick the guy at the end of the movie that raped her friend. There, not only that, you get Gina Gershon in it, not to mention that you get about 14 pretty popular B-movie actresses nude in the movie, Rena Riffle, whoever. And it's just such, and it's campy as hell. And it was made, it made fun of itself, but it's just, to me, I wish all movies were like Showgirls. I wish there were a few of those a year that came out, but there aren't. There was just the one in 95.
Do you think the trend will ever get back to those kinds of movies? Because it seems like, again, that television is really the place to see that level of.
The internet's changed things too. Like, it's like young guys don't realize that we used to pay money to go to the theater to see Showgirls. Like, people, what is going to make you, is a nude scene going to get a 20-something to go, download it on VOD or go to the theater?
Sure.
I don't know. It did for our era because we couldn't have access to that.
Right. It was scarcer. Yeah. The opportunity to see pornography in general was a lot scarcer than it is today. Absolutely, man.
Yeah. There's no question about that. And I always wonder, like, it's just, you could put nudity in a movie. Great. But is that going to drive tickets? It's not as easy as it used to be. That's the
and I would say other actresses like a modern day Elizabeth Berkley doing a nude scene might make a couple of us, take notice online. But I agree with you. I don't know if that's going to drive people to go to the theaters or not. I really don't know. I mean, again, like you said, Red Sparrow, great Jennifer Lawrence movie, and very, very much like everybody, a hard R black.
Yeah, that's a crazy scene at the front of the little school thing.
Oh my God, yeah. No, and again, I don't know what actors are willing to do it, and that's why I find it really interesting that on your top 10 this year, that there are so many of these veteran actresses that are willing to take off their clothes again.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yep,
pretty crazy, man. So it's all at MrSkin.com.
Yeah, right on the front page. Top 10 nude scenes of 2024. It'll be up there through the end of the year, and then we'll get going on 2025. And looking forward to all the great nudity, because I never sit and go, wow, I hope there's good nude scenes this coming up year. I just know there will be, so I'm not worried about it.
Do you have advance notice of anything coming? I remember one of the last times we talked about that show that was it Johnny Depp's daughter made on HBO, The Idol or whatever.
Yeah, and that poor show had great nudity, but just
great,
like,
but a horrible show.
So pissed. Yeah, it was like
it wasn't good. Well, and honestly, man,
it's like,
really good actors, and even an interesting story, and someone that came out of music radio for so many years. I really think that's a great subject to really explore.
Yep.
And there were hints of it in the story and in the dialogue, but yeah, man, no, they're just. I mean, God, a movie or a TV show's really got to suck for it to have that much extreme sex. And you'll be like, yeah, I don't know if I want to watch.
Well, that's a great example of like even the sex couldn't pull it over to a second season.
Nope.
But yeah, that Anora, that Sean Baker's movie, do you know about this movie? We're gonna have a lot to talk about in 2025 with this.
Okay.
It's this what's her name, Mikey Madison, who you might know. There was a show on FX called Better Things.
Yes.
And, yeah, with Pamela Adlon. She was one of the daughters, and she plays this sex worker from Brooklyn, and she meets a Russian oligarch's son who's super wealthy, and she like impulsively marries him. This whole movie is tons of nudity. I think it's going to win my Breast Picture next year for mainstream movie with the most nudity.
Okay.
But that's one that like is totally on our radar that I know a lot of people be talking about.
Is it out now, or is it still coming out? Or
they released it in theaters like at the end of this year to get Oscar buzz, but it's like won't be on VOD for a little while, and that's when people will actually see it in 2025. So
okay, and what's the title of the movie?
Anora, Anora, Anora.
Excellent. No, that's well. All right, we'll watch for that. That's fantastic.
Mark watch that on your to-do list. Trust me.
And I guess everyone's excited. I don't know if they've scheduled Euphoria the next, and maybe they haven't even made.
Yeah, I'm not sure when but yeah, everyone. That's always like super popular. It's always weird because young people watch that show, and as a show. I watch as much as anyone, but it just was too depressing for me, especially once you have kids that are like in high school or been in high school, and then all they're doing is drugs and alcohol, and they look like they're so depressed. It's like, like I love the nudity, don't get me wrong, on Euphoria, but the show itself is a little depressing for me.
I'm with you. I felt the same way. Jeremy says hello. Good to finally hear from Mr. Skin. Well, you can go back in the Word Balloon Library and hear many of our conversations over the years. And truly, Jim, I always appreciate when you come back. And
my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, we have a great. You do a great job interviewing. I enjoy it.
Well, thank you. No, that means a lot. And like I said, I just keep. Every now and then, I'll find Marta Kristen from Lost in Space. I found an early '70s movie where
she did a movie called The Gemini Affair.
Yes.
Yeah, where she's nude and people freak out. And that's so cool that you even know that. They're like. I can't remember the last time anyone asked me Marta Kristen. So, yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure we have that at MrSkin.com. It's a VHS quality. It's not like what I would, it's just never been released at anything where we could get like a real good screen grab,
I don't even know if you know this fact that I'm going to ask you about. I know that after Mystery Science Theater 3000 would take one of the lousy low budget movies and do their riff on them, or even locally, like a guy like Svengoolie, all of a sudden, the next time around, when the rights to be able to make something with those would come around, all of a sudden the price was jacked way up because, well, everybody saw Time of the Apes, the terrible Japanese Planet of the Apes knockoff.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. Yeah.
So yeah, I wondered if there have been any nude movies like that because of Mr. Skin or whatever internet buzz, if you noticed. And again, I don't know if within your use of them, you don't pay any sort of licensing fee, do you?
No, No.
Okay,
No. We're just
reviewing.
We're really reviewing the movies. For
Yeah,
that's our
sure,
shtick.
sure.
But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember like movies that like Gemini Affair is an example of. I mean, if I now maybe someone would want to go out and try to find it, or you could at least see it at our website. But I want to stress it's not going to be like high def because it's like what stuff looked like when I first launched the website when it was
100%
off my Betamax and VHS tapes that I had in 1999. But yeah, I'm trying to think of a movie that is known for just a nude scene. You remember Daisy Duke, Catherine Bach.
Yeah.
I want to say that's probably the best example I could give you because she did this movie called Crazed in 1976. This was just before she hit it big, on Dukes of Hazzard. And she did this movie. It was, not a great movie or anything, but she was topless in it. And we promoted the crap out of it, and next thing you know, they released it, and they put a quote from Mr. Skin on the box cover, which was kind of cool.
Sure.
I don't know how the movie ever did, but people might want to see it. To be honest, it's a horrible movie. But,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, but about an hour and 3 minutes in, you get to see Catherine Bach topless, which is pretty awesome, and it's a really good nude scene. So
there you go.
That's an example of like an obscure crap movie. It had a great nude scene, and that by talking about it, someone reached out to us. And there's other movies like that. I just can't remember off the top of my head, but Crazed with her is a great example.
Sure. Linda Carter. I don't know if she actually got naked in Bobby Joe and the
Outlaw. Yeah, that was one. I don't know if they reached out to me. I can't remember, but God, I've been promoting the crap out of that for 26 years. She's nude 3 times in the first 36 minutes, capped off by a scene where she's skinny dipping topless. Skinny dipping with a big Indian chief doing mushrooms. So what else can you ask for?
Outstanding. Yeah. Fantastic. Oh my God. That's great, man. Well, again, that's why I know I ran into an Angelique Pettyjohn film.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Of the Skin. Honestly, I half the reason why I bring up these names is to get you to be delighted that I'm saying these names.
Yeah. Let me see in the last like 26 years, I've probably been asked about Angelique Pettyjohn. None, but she was like, okay. Yeah, she was like a B movie, 70s, like a, all those drive-in movies, and she had huge breasts, and yeah, that's a great
one. In the 60s, she's in a great episode of Star Trek, The Gamesters of Triskelion, and she's basically in a two-piece.
That I didn't even know. So that's
she's got this big bouffant green wig, and she's in this like two-piece. Looks like aluminum foil bikini sort of thing, and it's like, sure, okay, whatever. And then there was and she was in Get Smart. And it was a great role. She played
that's right.
She played a control agent that was her name was Charlie, and spoke, "How you doing, 86?" A man's voice, but she was in disguise as a cigarette girl, and she's in this voluptuous outfit and stuff as this cigarette girl. And it's like, hey, Charlie, how you doing?
That's really cool. I know she was even in some Elvis movies, I think, too. She's just one of those. She was like a B movie actress. She died pretty young, if I remember.
Yeah, sadly. Yeah, she did.
But I'm a big fan of some of her stuff, especially, in the early 70s. GI Executioner is one I just love.
I'll have to look for that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Do you ever do interviews with the celebrity women at all to talk about the films? I mean,
we do. I don't usually do them. My writers usually do them, and then we post the interview. But
sure.
Obviously for this movie, we had some really cool ones that we did. Diane Franklin,
big fan.
Yeah, just like really, really cool. Actresses. Mariel Hemingway was really neat to talk to, and but that's more for something like this. My writers do the interviews with the if Angelique Pettyjohn was still alive, we would do an interview with her.
Sure. Yeah. Gotta grab Joan Collins before she passes away.
Yes. That's a great
You know,
one too.
are you any thoughts to another documentary, or I mean, Skin obviously does. It's a pretty comprehensive documentary. Everybody, it really is a great movie.
Yeah, I don't know. We've talked about it, and then everyone gets busy, and then it doesn't happen.
Sure.
It's kind of it's a lot of work, if as you can imagine, and it costs a decent amount of money to do it right, which we put in a decent amount of money. So it takes time to make that money back. So we'll see. But listen, the one great thing about our documentary is it's very evergreen, meaning that 10 years from now, you could watch this and it's still going to be relevant, because it's the history of nudity in movies. And you're not, if you watch this in 5 years, it's not going to matter that much. It's still going to be relevant. So that's a good thing too.
I'm with you, man. No, it's a terrific movie, everybody. And again, as Skin said, it's available on list of Skin's top nude scenes of 2024, available for free right there on the front page of MrSkin.com. Definitely go check it out. And now, Skin, I hope we'll talk in the spring, and we'll get you next
awards. That's when I get really crazy stuff. Your mind will be blown. Stuff that you can't imagine actually happened in movies and television from all over the world. That's fun. That's really fun.
That's great, man. No. We'll definitely talk about it in the spring. As always, I'm happy to see you. You look great, and continued success with the site and everything else. And I'm glad you're out there, and I know a lot of us are glad you're out there doing what you guys do.
Still doing it after all these rears.
In fact, I happen to notice in my email, I get your newsletter every day, and I think the best butts of 2024 is another list.
Yeah, that's out. I mean, we churn it out on a daily basis.
Great stuff, Mr. Skin. Thanks for talking. Thanks appreciate so much, it as John. Always. Absolutely, man. Hang out. I'll tell you more about Tom McGovern if you want to get in touch with him and stuff. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody, for watching. Until next time, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.